episode 168 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, recorded July 10th, 2022. My name is Ian. I'm a hermit addicted to Mylar and hand warmers on Vancouver Island. Eric is totally exhausted, recovering from meeting his fan base at the Prepper meetup, and, having to sign breasts and T-shirts and everything else is just too much for him. So he said he's just too exhausted to show up tonight.
Wow. I'm Alan. I'm a safety trainer, first responder, security expert, overall safety nerd, and rabid fan of rapid survival.
Just placed an order with them.
And I'm Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I am a target shooter, ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario. Consider myself a part-time amateur prepper who's constantly trying to better himself.
Hi, guys. I'm Ethan. I spent 14 months living on the road out of the back of the truck camper. I've traveled 85,000 K from the Arctic Circle all the way to the southern tip of Baja and right back here to Ontario.
Welcome tonight, Ian. If you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, you should buy some swag. We have both a really awesome, wicked cool Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt, although I don't think anybody's wearing one tonight. I am, but you can't see that. Or the tactical Velcro patch. You can get them both at www.prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds help keep the lights on, the backup generator fueled.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. We'd also like your feedback, good or bad, or if there's a topic you'd like us to cover, send us an email at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
I'm not wearing a Prepper Podcast t-shirt, but I'm wearing a t-shirt given to me by a listener. Winnipeg Jets t-shirt. Hey, look at that. Anyways, we have some minimalist content for this episode. Dad joke. We're going to start off with some recent news, update our personal preps, so we're going to get onto the main topic, which is living in your bug-out vehicle. So, news time.
Sri Lanka seems to be in a bit of turmoil right now. Economic crisis, all kinds of protests, really nasty things. The prime minister is set to resign if it hasn't happened already. At some point over the weekend, protesters broke into the prime minister's palace/house/residence and burned it down. So
after they had a swim in the pool, didn't they?
Yes, they had a swim in the pool.
In the crystal clear pool, I'm told.
The interesting is, you say he's going to resign. Well, I guess he's resigning from overseas because did you see the film of him hopping on the ship?
Yes, running with one of his aides behind him or something, all with a luggage in hand. Get up the gangway, let's go, boys.
Any bets what was in those suitcases?
Mm-hmm.
Millions and millions of dollars.
Guarantee it. It's I was thinking Hans Gruber bearer bonds, cash, diamonds, gold, whatever. I'm sure he just took a lot of it with him. So, but the way he skedaddled up that gangplank, I was like, well, I guess you're in a bit of a rush. It was interesting to see, because between the fuel we talked about a couple weeks ago, and then the economic issues and the people having enough with the lack of food. I actually just talked to a buddy of mine who's from there, and he was saying, it's like, luckily out in the country it's still relatively sedate, but I guess in the cities it's just a complete gong show. So, anyway.
I'd be running too if I had that kind of money and that many people chasing me.
But the best part is like, why hop on a ship? Like, had all these planes sitting at the airport when maybe they had fuel issues. I mean, they didn't have any gas for them. But I mean, I would think bunker oil and jet fuel are fairly similar for the ships and the planes. But I guess a couple people took off Code Monkey Z there, or whatever his name is, that does the airplane tracking on YouTube. He was tracking planes coming off Sri Lanka, and there's like, you could see a bunch of military guys had stolen planes and left town as well. So you think he'd be able to get on one of those.
He didn't want to pay the overweight fee for all the bags.
They would definitely be overweight.
Jesus.
So anyway, as for myself, well, I'm glad we decided to stick it to the man there with Mr. Putin there, and we had all the sanctions on him. And now, 4 months later, Russia's ruble is now the strongest currency in the world.
So I should start investing in rubles?
It's probably too late for that. Now you're going to buy high and maybe sell low down the road. So, but I mean, he's definitely found workarounds to the sanctions, and obviously whether or not we should continue them just to stick it to him is debatable because he's not losing. So, anyway,
When has not losing ever worked for stopping sanctions? Like we tried to stop communism in Cuba by with the U.S. embargoing all trade in the U.S. or all trade to Cuba, and 45 years later, 55 years later, it's still there. So
it should work any day now, Alan. Come on,
any day. Yeah. No, dig up.
2 more weeks, right? 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. More importantly, closer to home, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Rogers was down all across the realm.
What? That is brand new information.
You don't say.
I was not aware of that until this exact moment.
Yeah, I mean, unless you were literally living under a rock or at your fish camp.
Yeah, no internet for 4 days. Loved it.
Yeah, like honestly, I guess pretty much everybody was affected that because I guess not just cell phones, but obviously Interact was a problem. Certain credit cards worked, certain ones didn't. And then
A lot of ATMs I heard weren't working.
Yeah, so people were having to go into the bank for cash. So instantly there was lineups at the banks, and that was a problem. And yeah, I think it was like, if I want to channel my inner Star Wars, it's like, a million teenagers cried out in pain and then were silenced or something. Anyway, yeah, because it's like my kids had lost their right hand or something. Anyway, but yeah, it's pretty interesting the fact that most importantly, 911 services didn't work because, as we used to talk about, like you could still use 911 even with a SIM cardless cell phone. Or if it didn't have a subscription on it anyway, it would still work with 911. But I guess 911 didn't work for pretty much anybody that had a Rogers phone.
Well, the Rogers.
I mean, I know obviously from
was as much as the problem as the output. So it was a lot of a lot of phone services were on Rogers.
Yeah, but I guess they were saying like even 911 would normally work, but yeah, nothing.
Yeah, and a lot of in the 911 centers, a lot of them now, all of the phone connections and all of that, it's all on VoIP. It's all voice over internet. So if the internet crashes, guess what?
You're screwed.
You have no voice.
Yeah.
Alan's #1 fan on the live chat.
See
right
that?
Now. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I really hope all your chores are done if you're sitting watching YouTube tonight.
Yeah, he is Dr. Evil after all. He's a pretty scary guy. So, more importantly, for our infrastructure and our supply chain, a second gas plant in the U.S. went up in smoke, so to speak. It's not damaged permanently, but it's going to be offline for a while. We had the Freeport one that did all the exports to Europe went up in fiery mess about 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago. And then now we have another one, the OK, what's it called? 1OK or whatever gas plant
like
in Oklahoma. Yeah, they ended up evacuating the whole area because there's a fire that just mysteriously broke out, putting that one offline.
Well, the price of gas was coming down. They had to do something to drive it back up.
Yeah. There's a third one too. Like I guess a gas pipeline mysteriously blew up too in Texas, but they just kind of sealed it up like a pair of arterial clamps, and then I guess that's fine. But that means the section of pipeline's offline for a while. But it's like almost like they got the Homer Simpson of safety crew on board right now with all these gas plants.
Alan, you should go and
tell them what's what
on that.
Yeah,
not a chance. I don't want my name anywhere near that. That's like the gas plants have information that would put Hillary Clinton in jail. It's kind of crazy.
It's funny they weren't hanging in a tree with a shotgun blast to the chest or anything. But yeah. Anyway, all right. Go ahead.
Sorry, I threw one in there at the last second. For people going to, so the Netherlands farmers protests, kind of their version of our freedom convoy. The farmers there are going after the government about the government's new strict environmental rules. I mean, at a time when we all know there's going to be a food shortage and everybody says there's going to be a food shortage, the government decides, well, we're going to change the rules around fertilizing and all of that stuff so that, environment, we're going to have to probably shut down a bunch of farms and you guys are just going to stop making food.
And it works so well in Sri Lanka.
Well, yeah. Exactly, because Sri Lanka was about the organic farming as well. And you know what their big complaint was in the Netherlands? It wasn't carbon this time. It was nitrogen. Which, is only, 72% of the Earth's atmosphere or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, nitrogen actually makes plants grow.
It was nitrogen and ammonia.
Yeah, and I was like, you're not serious. Okay, I guess we
Well,
can
yeah,
read
but
it.
combined, those things make something really nasty. So they're probably reacting to some kind of threat. Oklahoma.
But yeah, no, I find it was kind of funny that the fact that they were more concerned with nitrogen than carbon this time or anything else. But it was just like, what a silly thing to start over. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to see little kids on the mini electric tractors following the big tractors and stuff. And it already
I kind of the one I laugh about. It's kind of gross, but they had put a bunch of hay bales down and set them on fire, and so the fire guys decided to come and put it out, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll smarten you up." They just covered it with gallons and gallons of manure, and then lit it on fire again and said, "Go ahead, boys, put it out, have your fun."
Yeah,
I just can't imagine the smell.
They covered a couple government buildings in liquid manure as well. And interesting, it didn't take them long for the cops to just start shooting at tractors randomly that posed no threat. That was interesting too. But
wow,
yeah, things are definitely going haywire. Yeah, there's some good videos out there. Like this 16-year-old was driving a tractor and he's just driving it down the road, and cops were just by the side of the road and just took a couple pot shots at him. And people got it on film. I was like, wow, that's
oh my god,
unnecessary. But anyway. Yeah.
No, Pierre, we did not touch on the can openers yet.
Give it time. I missed my opportunity. I missed my opportunity with the natural gas to talk about carbon monoxide detectors, but anyway.
Listen, it's all coming up. Relax, guys, relax. We don't need to rush into this. We're only 11 minutes in.
Eased in slowly, just like when I had to. Never mind. Anyways, what have we done lately for preps?
Oh. Not a whole lot yet. Work, and some more work. My old shed actually got removed yesterday. My new shed, I assumed it was going to be delivered today. I think there was some miscommunication there, but
you know what they say about people who assume.
What's that?
You know what they say about people who assume.
Yes, I do. I haven't been made an ass out of yet.
Well, I don't know. It seems like you don't have a shed, so...
You are correct. You are correct. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I have a feeling, like I said, just miscommunication on when it was going to be delivered and when I thought it was going to be delivered, which I thought today would be the day, but I guess not. Other than that, that's it. Just been working.
And I did next to nothing. I was out of town for several days, and I was already off the grid and could care less about the grid or Rogers or anything else while everybody else was in meltdown. It was a really good time. Weather was phenomenal, and can't wait to get the heck out of Dodge again.
So you got to know how to sell this stuff, Jeff. You should say, I was out practicing my off-grid food harvesting and off-grid living and bug-out plans and everything else. You could have wrapped up in all sorts of things.
You know, that could have come into play a little bit there. You know, we may have caught a fish or two or 10.
None.
Yeah.
See, you were honing your survival skills.
I didn't even realize it. And arm lifts, workouts. I heard. Yeah,
20 ounce alternating arm curls. Yep.
That's right. Some exercise in there for sure. As for myself, because we've had so much rain lately, it is safe for me to continue chainsawing despite the fires we had last year. So I was chainsawing in the rain, which I'm sure raised some eyebrows to the neighbors, but it made for some cool work at least. So I've been trying to stack wood again for the next season. Try to do a 50% increase because of last winter being so cold. To make sure I have more than enough to last through the season, which I almost didn't this year. I've actually come up short. I don't have enough for the year, so I'm trying to find standing deadfall, knock them down, and then buck them up quickly and get them into the sun for a couple of days and throw them right in the woodshed ready for the fall. But that's a bit of a process right now.
Has to stop raining for that.
Has to stop raining to dry that wood for the last little bit, yeah. Tried a little bit of something today, which we had, well, I guess the wife's tried it a bunch when she used to live in Japan, but we tried opening up some of our preps and made an interesting dish today, which was called spam musubi, for those of you into Japanese food. But it basically it consists of taking a can of spam, which is like...
That's not food, by the way. Spam is not food.
It's salt with...
Bite your tongue.
Yeah, salt with meat product. Come on now. But this is all out of our prep supply, right? So we took a can of spam, made 8 slices out of it, fried it in teriyaki sauce, which is just soy sauce, and we did a little interesting take on it. We did maple syrup and vinegar, basically, for lack of a better term. And fried it all up, and then took some rice, squished it flat into it with this little rice press we have, and wrapped it in seaweed, which of course we can collect locally as well. and I made something called spam musubi, which was actually quite delicious. I was not sold on spam sushi, but it works. Anyway, so there you go.
Good to know.
Yeah,
Jeff, the reality of spam is it's just square hot dog.
Actually, I thought
and hot dogs are basically lips and assholes.
Yes, it's good food.
Tubular steak, yes. I got it.
Tube
But
steaks. Yep.
it was actually pretty good. And considering the reputation of spam, I was actually pleasantly surprised. So definitely buy more spam.
Don't forget to add the baked beans and spam.
Spam, bacon and spam?
Baked beans and spam.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, I wrenched my back a little bit, so I was a little bit offline for preps and work for a while. But anyways, made it back to work, and that was the rest of my week. So that's pretty much it for me.
I spent a lot of time at work. I did some things around the yard. Very little in terms of improvements. Just getting ready for the next stage of landscaping to finish up around the garage. Finish up the design for the squat rack in my garage gym, which was the whole purpose of building the garage in the first place. I did actually make a quick trip out to the sale. We've got one that's not quite in town, but just an hour up the road. Went out with one of my search and rescue coworkers or colleagues, and went out and talked gear and boots. And of course, I bought a couple of sharp things and a couple of shiny things because I could. And now I'm just trying to put some time together to actually execute the design for my squat rack, and then I'll be one step closer to being done.
Cool. Awesome. Time for the main topic, I guess. So I guess we should start off with why are we talking about this today? I think the Chris Farley skit said it best. It used to be a running joke about living in a van down with the river. Now everybody considers it a life goal. And what Van City Van Life, he actually lives just down the hill from me. He's a YouTuber. He's got 500,000 followers, and people are fascinated by this whole, living in a van. And we all talk about the mythical bug out vehicle. Everybody talks about it and what they put in it, but very few people actually put one together. So that's why we got Ethan on tonight. Much like a cabin in the woods or whatever, can be used as a mobile house in normal times, but for harder times, it's an easier transition to just carry on as normal and head into the woods. So, Ethan, if you can, just tell us a little bit about yourself for background purposes.
Hey, so I just have to say, some of the coolest people I met live down in a van by the river. Hands down, amazing old people that just have the coolest stories you've ever heard.
Like I said, now it's a life goal, right?
Yeah, exactly. YouTube's made it that way, right? Instagram, YouTube, you got to be that you're not the best if you're not down by the river, out by the ocean.
Yeah, considering the cost of oceanfront property now.
That's for sure. Hey, if you're down in Baja, you can just park down there for free and sit by the ocean all day long and relax. It's awesome. So
what got you into this?
So, probably about 2 years ago, I decided to start saving up my money, and I decided to take 1.5 years off and see North America. I've been all around before, other countries and stuff, but I haven't seen our own. So I decided to leave Ontario and drive all the way out to BC, from BC up to the Arctic Circle, then all the way down to Baja. It was definitely an adventure, that's for sure. I built 2 bug out vehicles, so I spent 6 months building a truck before I left, and best laid plans of mice and men. Things go sideways, and I ended up having to build another truck on the road. So it was an adventure, that's for sure.
Awesome. So did you make it all the way up to Tuk at the end of the Dempster, or how far up did you go?
We made it up into the Northwest Territories, but due to the COVID, they had the borders closed going into the Northwest Territories. So we made it up the Dempster, where we decided to crack the flywheel on the truck and managed to limp it back to Whitehorse and then get somebody to fix it there. But it was an adventure. It's beautiful up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Yukon's awesome for sure.
Yeah,
you say you made all the way down to Baja as well?
Yep. So we did, I think it's about 85,000 kilometers total. All the way down around Baja. We did Wyoming, California, Utah. We spent a month in Utah, Basically, we tried to get as remote as we could on our trip, and it was absolutely amazing. The amount of people that we met, a lot of preppers on the road. You'd be surprised how many preppers there are in their bug out vehicles in the middle of nowhere, just enjoying their best life.
That's pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and the inspiration was just for the travel purposes, or like was there like something else behind the scenes on that one, or just want to get away from Ontario, which I can't blame you, but.
Yeah, well, I definitely wanted to see everything there is to see. I've traveled traveled quite a few other places, and I've never seen Ontario. But besides that, I think it was just to get out of Ontario and see, how you can make it, how your life changes. We get so stuck in, the routine of going to work and everything all the time. And just to get out there. And honestly, I was actually amazed at how simple life is once you kind of get out of your average everyday routine.
So when you first kind of put the truck together, like, did you have it stuffed full of gear and figure like, do you have way too much stuff, or how did you figure out what to throw in there?
That's for sure. Honestly, when we left, I had everything in the kitchen sink. 2 is 1, 1 is none, and I packed more gear than I thought possible. I had 6 of everything. I had backup for a stove, backup for a stove.
How many can openers did you have?
Surprisingly, I only had 1 can opener. That was a mistake because that can opener broke. I know you plan for the best and still you have failures. Yeah, when you need your Spam in the middle of nowhere and you can't open it, it gets very frustrating. But I mean, you get the knife out and eventually you can figure it out, right?
Spam has a pull tab. No, come on, it's like the corned beef, right? It's got the little. Like Spam has actually just a pull thing, but yeah, corned beef's got the key. But yeah, no, that's interesting. You didn't run across Brad's vehicle then with the 28 can openers at the back. So
no, you must buy like the premium Spam or something like that because this stuff definitely didn't have a can.
Oh wow, yeah,
didn't have a twist tab or a pull tab. I must be buying the cheap Spam.
No, I think you got the American Spam, which I think does not have the pull tab. So, yeah, awesome. So like what made you how did you choose your vehicle to start out with? Like I know you changed vehicles off, but like did you you first start off with the full on van or the truck camper? Or which one did you start with first?
So basically I tried to choose the apocalypse vehicle, the best apocalypse vehicle I could find. So I'm a mechanic. So I decided to go with an old Dodge pickup truck, an old mechanical diesel truck that I figured could go anywhere and do everything. As simple as possible. I wanted old school, simple. You got mechanical injection, the motors run forever. The transmissions kind of have their issues, which we kind of ran into on the road. But like I said, I rebuilt everything top to bottom before we left. Anything I thought could go wrong, I tried to prepare for. And it just goes to show you, no matter what you do, there will always be something that you can't prepare for or something that you're not expecting, and you just have to kind of roll with whatever happens. I bought a pop-up truck bed camper. I put solar on the roof. I put more batteries than I thought I'd need. I outfitted it as best of my abilities to the best of my funds at the time. And honestly, I think I overdid it. I expected that I would have to have all the conveniences that I had in my normal life. And that was just as far from the truth as possible.
I will agree with that.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people try to maintain. Oh, go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say, tell us about your solar setup. You said we were talking before the show. It was like a 200 watt panel. Can you talk a little bit more about how that worked and what you were able to do with it, and what you would do differently with it, maybe?
Yeah, so I went with, I just went with a cheap Amazon panel. It was a 200 watt panel. Mounted that on the roof through a cheap Amazon charge controller. I managed to find 2 used Skyjack batteries. They're 225 amp hours each. So I had roughly 400 amp hours of power. I never ran it below, we'll say, 80%. I ran everything. It's amazing what you can do with 12 volts nowadays. Just think about your car. So I managed to run all my lights off of 12 volt. charge your phone, charge your everything you have, charge your radios, charge your flashlights. Almost everything you need now can be charged off of 12 volt. I had a little Milwaukee M12 impact set and some stuff like that. That was the only thing I ever charged with an inverter. Other than that, I find an inverter is, it's a big waste of power, in my opinion. It's good for certain things, but not for other things. And other than that, we, ran propane for our fridge, propane for our stove, little things like that. We had a small 25-gallon water tank. That's big for some people, small for others. But we found with our truck set up the way it is, we could go average, 2 weeks, no problem, without resupplying. If we needed to, we spent, I think we spent almost a month on the road without resupplying. The biggest thing was fresh food, but canned food and that kind of stuff can get you a long way. And when you're up in the Yukon and it's $8 for a can of beans, you got to use what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what was your carbon monoxide detector like in there if you had propane in the camper?
So we had a flammable gas detector as well as smoke alarm and carbon monoxide detector. And I do have to say, I have a buddy heater, and when the propane furnace cut out on me the one night, I ended up running the buddy heater inside the camper while I slept. Sketchy, but hey, it worked. When you got to be warm, you got to be warm, and hey, it worked, and the carbon monoxide detector didn't go off, and I'm still alive.
Well, on that subject, before Alan has a little cry to himself about that. With the propane, so you use that for hot water heating, for cooking, and anything else? You said also the stove or the furnace, and what else?
Yeah, so we just we used it for the stove, for heating the camper, and then for hot water. We didn't use the hot water so much. We found honestly most of the time you don't need hot water. We're so used to having it, but at the start of the trip we had that going, and it uses quite a bit of propane to keep water hot all the time. And hey, we didn't really need it. The only time we ever needed hot water was for dishes, and we could heat it up if we needed it. So propane was actually we could last. If we were just using it for cooking, we could last a month, 2 months on just a tank.
Oh, wow.
Just one tank, not two?
Yeah, just one tank. We had 2 tanks, so we would swap them out when they got empty. The biggest thing was the heater, because it was a soft-sided truck camper, a pop top, so it didn't hold the heat well. So when it was cool, we'd burn through a lot of propane there. But besides that, actually, the fridge used, I was amazed. I will always swear by a three-way fridge. It used almost no propane.
Yeah, I was going to ask if the fridge was done by that. So it's just like a little bar fridge, or like full size? Like what size of fridge was it?
Yeah, it's just a small bar fridge. But again, we're so used to having everything in the fridge all the time. You get used to it. Like in Mexico, they don't have their eggs in the fridge. That kind of that still warped my mind a little bit. But there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get refrigerated in other countries that we always put in the refrigerator. So, I mean, you can kind of use your space wisely. That's the biggest thing when you have, like any bug out bag or anything, right? It's how much stuff do you want to carry? And we realized very quickly how little we needed. I came from, prepping for everything, having a house full of, everything that I could ever need, backup generators, 3 sump pumps just in case one failed. And that's what I tried to do initially on the trip. And I realized very quickly that it's just too much stuff to carry around, and it's actually almost a burden. It slows you down. You don't need half of what you actually think you're going to need.
I think a lot of people try and maintain what they have in the house into the truck, and yeah, like you said, that's going to lead to congestion at best for sure. That's awesome. I guess. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
We've done a lot of camping. My wife and the kids and a whole group of us. And our first time going group camping, we had, like you said, Ethan, everything plus the kitchen sink. Not exactly the kitchen sink, but you know what I mean. And I think a year went by and we went through all of our stuff and realized we don't need at least a third of this. And by the end of the second year, we went back through it all again and threw out some more stuff. And yeah, it's amazing how much you don't need when you think you do.
Yeah, so like if you decide to go off into the sticks there in like northern BC or whatever, you said it was a 20-pound propane tank. Like how long would that last? You said about a month or something.
Yeah, so we had two 20-pounders in the camper. But that being said, we use the heater, or when we use the heater at night, that kind of stuff, you get anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks out of a propane tank. And then, if you're not using the heater and if you're trying to conserve a little bit more, we'll say, you could probably easily get a month and a half out of a propane tank for just running the fridge and the cooking. It was actually, I was amazed at how little propane we went through.
So just need to pre-cache like five tanks somewhere or something. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. If I had have installed there's a million ways to get around everything, right? Like I was looking at it now. If I did the trip again, I would definitely install a diesel fuel heater, and then I would just run off the diesel fuel. And anybody that's looking for, so the tank on the truck was, I think it was 125 liters of fuel. I don't know what that is for the Americans out there in gallons. I think it's like 34 gallons, but it surprisingly with the first truck would get actually amazing fuel mileage. I could get 700-800 kilometers out of a tank, but I always carried a couple jerry cans with me just in case. But there was a couple times you get pushing a little bit too far, and we got going up the Nahanni Range Road, and then you find a cool road off to the side, and you stay a couple extra days here or there, and sometimes it gets pretty close cutting it with fuel, but it's entertaining, and there's so far that you can travel. There's so much you can see. Once you get out that remote, we saw, hunting cabins. There's a lot of bug out cabins up there too. So
I can imagine.
Yeah, we went through a couple of them. We camped beside one cabin and kind of took a peek through the windows, and you can see what's inside. And there's a couple of them up there that are set up. I mean, you could live out of that cabin for the next 10 years of your life, no problem.
Wow. What about water? How did you handle the water situation? Did you just filter it on the fly, or did you bring a bunch with you in the tanks? Or
you're gonna love this. Life straw bottles are the best thing ever. The bottles with the life straw that go in them are amazing. Drink water from anywhere. You can't get the ones you got to put your face down by the river. You got to get the ones that actually go in the bottle. But I mean, we drank. I would say we had to drink 300 or 400 liters of water out of those.
Oh wow!
And they work amazing. I drank water out of the Ganges River in India, the most polluted river in the world, out of one of those, and I'm still alive. So
after a week in the hospital, or no?
I was gonna say you're probably stronger for it, but
yeah, I don't know whether that takes out the chromium and all the horrible toxins and stuff like that. But no, I survived. I'm still good. Maybe a little bit less mentally deficient now, but we'll see.
That's awesome. Yeah, so because I was gonna say, once you're in the middle of nowhere, there's probably not a lot of water resupply unless you filter or whatever your own. So that's awesome.
Yeah, one of the cool things I found was we were getting way up in the middle of nowhere, up in the north, and there's these helipads that some of these companies put down. There's 200, 300 barrels of diesel fuel, jet fuel, gasoline. It's crazy. It's like a restock supply place. So, I mean, I'm not saying that some of those may have gone missing once or twice, but I mean, we were getting close to running empty on fuel once or twice.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Nobody's going to notice one barrel missing.
Jet B and diesel is almost like interchangeable. Like they're pretty much chemically identical. So that's definitely a lot to be said for that. So versus a gas vehicle, which that wouldn't do you a whole lot of good. So
yeah, the diesel truck runs perfectly on jet fuel. It runs great. It works amazing. That's for sure.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. Allegedly.
All right, well, let's talk about the food aspect. So, did you make 14-course meals in the back of the truck, or how did that work?
So, really, you pare your meals down to what you need, right? So, yeah, we did bring some of the freeze-dried food. We brought some of that. That stuff gets very expensive. So it just gets, you get to the basics. But one thing that we found is I eat a lot of pasta, and I love pasta. I could eat it every meal, but pasta uses a lot of water. So we realized very quickly that if we make pasta every night, we run through a tank of water in a week. So realized, some foods like rice, some pre-made foods, crackers, lunch meats, that kind of stuff, that stuff is key. Canned beans, just basically the same things you eat at home. Biggest thing for me is coffee every morning. So had a lot of coffee. That was probably our supply trips were very coffee fueled.
Obviously, the aspect of hunting in Canada would be one thing which you wouldn't do a whole lot of good once you cross the border. But was there any fishing to be had along the way?
Oh, there's fish in every river. You could see them. I do not have the patience to fish. I tried. I'll sit there for 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, I'm done. I've got ADHD and cannot fish. To save my life, if I needed to, I don't think I could. But yeah, there's resources everywhere. There's people everywhere. We met so many amazing people on the road that, would share their fish. They've been out catching fish all day, and they'll share their fish. So we had some, fish with friends, and it's amazing just the type of people that you meet when you're on the road and the kindness of strangers. Everybody helps everybody else out. We've shared meals with friends. If somebody is low on fuel and you have a jerry can, hey, help them out. It's absolutely amazing. I think awesome. People are more kind than we give them credit for. I think that we always think worst case scenario. And I think that the biggest thing is it's just think about yourself. If you were to encounter somebody going through hard times, you'd help them out. And I think it's pretty well the same with everyone. We were pretty lucky that way.
That's awesome. Nice. Quick question about we talked about the furnace for the thing. What happens if the trailer got too hot? Is there a way that you had to kind of cool the thing down if you're down in the Baja or whatever?
No, that was one thing. We were in BC, just south of Lytton during the wildfires last year, and I think it was 52 degrees in the shade. And it was, we sat in, but I mean, at the same time, we could walk down to the river, and I couldn't believe how much colder the rivers were. So you park in a van down by the river, and hey, it drops 10, 15 degrees. Natural cooling.
Yeah. Definitely makes things a little more temperate for sure.
And then you had the same kind of experience when you were in like Death Valley, where it was just ridiculously hot, right?
Yeah, well, that was the crazy thing about this year. No matter where we were, the temperatures were crazy. So we had in BC, we had the wildfires, and we had the extreme heat. And then we went through Wyoming. There was massive snowstorms in Wyoming when we were there. We drove down into the Mojave Desert, and we got a rainstorm while we were in the Mojave Desert. We were in Death Valley, California, and it snowed. I couldn't believe it. So, you got to be prepared for everything, but I could not believe the temperature extremes. So even when we were in Baja, it was 12 degrees, 13 degrees Celsius in Baja when we were down there at the start, like just abnormal temperatures everywhere we went. So it put our preps to the test. We made sure we had lots of blankets, and we just, you do the best you can with what you have.
So with the space that you had available, like how much food could you keep on board? Reasonably expect to keep on board anyway.
So ideally we had probably about 5 square feet of room. So it doesn't sound like that much, but when you can pack, when you keep your food boxes small, you pull, you have a big box of food, and then you pull the little package of food out from the big box, like cereal, whatever. You actually can save quite a bit of room. And I was amazed at how long we could last on the food we had. I think it was generally the coffee that got us more than anything. Food, even in that small space, we could pack enough food for 2 people for probably a month if we stocked up right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it seems like we thought we were going to have to stop every week and resupply, And there's some weeks that we did stop, every week. Fresh vegetables are a thing. You run out of fresh vegetables, you run out of food maybe that you want to eat more, and you run into food that you have to eat. But if you really want to, like the water and the food and the propane, you could stretch it. I was actually amazed at how little I needed. So we tried to bring along everything that we possibly, would ever need. And we didn't need half of it. From prepping, I'm used to, you got to have every single thing. And it was amazed at the stuff we didn't need. We brought, saws, knives, chainsaws, that kind of stuff. And yeah, for 99% of it, you don't need it, right? But we always think of worst case scenario.
Yeah, I would think like the wood handling tools, you'd use them all the time, but maybe not so much. Unless you just want a campfire for fun, I guess. But
yeah, I think I only used the hatchet like 3 or 4 times. So we were able to get wood, or we were able to collect wood that was already in small enough pieces. Because I was thinking, I brought the axe, the hatchet, everything. And that being said, most of the time, you find smaller limbs that are down in the forest. You can break them off. You could get enough firewood that way. You didn't have trees that you were going to chop down and then split. So it was just a different way of going about and thinking about things, right? If you're in a cabin in the woods, you got to have an axe. But for what we were doing, I was amazed you don't need an axe, right? Just things like that. You just got to change your perspective on what you actually use and what you don't.
yeah, so it's one thing to have things you don't need on board. But what about anything that you didn't pack enough of, like that, consistently kind of became a problem?
Definitely underwear. Underwear is key.
Fair enough.
Yeah. We did our wash. It was amazing. We found lots of simple ways to do things. So we'd put a 5-gallon bucket, throw our clothes in the 5-gallon bucket, put some laundry detergent in there, and then go for a long drive down a bumpy road. And by the time you get there, rinse the clothes out, and they're pretty clean. So, you find inventive ways of doing things, but laundry is a pain when you're on the road, that's for sure. Trying to find a laundromat, doing things that way, washing them in a river. Found out washing them in the ocean doesn't work so well. Salt water doesn't work as well as I thought it would.
I would think it'd be super soft water, you know what I mean? Like, but I guess it'd be like a residue left behind or something.
Yeah, it leaves your black clothes with some salt stains on them, and you got to rinse them with fresh water after.
And doesn't it start to degrade the fabrics a little bit more?
I'm sure that's one thing. I went through a lot of clothes. I bought, the Carhartt pants that I wear normally, I thought would last, and that kind of stuff. Just when you're using it and abusing it all day long, you got to buy good quality stuff. And I thought Carhartt was really good quality stuff, but I mean, those pants, even the heavy canvas pants, when you start washing them with salt water and using them every day like that, they do wear a lot faster than I thought. So I think that, spend the money where it's due. I think that's one of the things I learned as well. I bought a lot of, cheaper stuff, and cheaper stuff is good. Chinese, Amazon quality stuff is good if you're not sure whether you're going to use it. And then slowly over the trip, we upgraded to, better quality stuff. Like everyone's got to have Max Tracks, but they're a traction board for in case you get stuck. I got stuck. I got out. I didn't need them, so I just bought the cheap Amazon ones, and I used them twice. But there's a lot of gear that you can spend a lot of money on if you don't really need it. So I think there's a use for everything. Some things premium quality, some things, get away with the cheap stuff for now.
What about on-the-fly first aid stuff, like beyond the ouch pouch? Is there anything that you kind of came up you kind of needed or didn't need or anything else?
No, surprisingly, I actually hurt myself a lot less on this trip than I do at home. So I didn't need the first aid kit that much, but I have a full trauma first aid kit. I took with me everywhere. When you're up on a quad in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, it's a good thing to have. We put it in our backpack all the time, just in case. We had a very, very good first aid kit. We spent the money on that, and surprisingly, we never had to use it.
Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right?
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Awesome. I was pretty good overall. Actually, let's talk about your truck breakdown there. So you said you were up in the Dempster when the first truck started to go downhill?
Yeah, so I mean, up in the Dempster, middle of nowhere. So we passed Eagle Plains gas station. It's a gas station hotel in the absolute middle of nowhere. And we talked to a guy there that had broken spark plugs, and he was been waiting 3 weeks for a set of broken spark plugs. And so then we get up to the Arctic Circle, and we keep on going, and the truck starts making weird noises. And you know when you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, and you're in the middle of nowhere, you haven't seen anybody in a day, and it's just the most horrible noise you've ever heard. And so I get out there trying to figure it out. Couldn't figure it out. Limped it down to Dawson City. Only a couple 100 miles, and then a couple 100 kilometers from there. Limped it down to Whitehorse. It was muddy and snowy. I couldn't figure out what it was, so I had it in there. They ended up putting a transmission flex plate in it. Thought that fixed the issue, was good for another 300, 400 kilometers, and it broke again. Exact same thing. So, I mean, you either have a choice of, you can give up, come home, cut your losses. Nobody could look at the truck for a couple months. So we decided we would just, buy a new truck as is, where is, sight unseen on the road, bought a new truck, and kept on going. So we bought a new truck, transferred the camper over, transferred the batteries. We were stuck in a parking lot in the middle of nowhere, got a rental vehicle, went and picked the truck up and swapped it all over and continued on. Yeah.
Nice.
It was about a 2-week adventure to get it all set up and swapped over. But hey, that's just life, right? You always encounter problems. You can't foresee every circumstance. And I think the biggest thing is being able to adapt to the circumstance. So you never know what's going to happen. You could prep, do everything you can for preps, have everything in your house, and then your house burns down, right? Then what's going to happen? What are you going to do? So you got to make the best of what you got.
That wouldn't happen if you had a good fire extinguisher and smoke detector on board.
Well, maybe you could have found a better truck on CGN or something. Oh.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the trifecta. We've hit all the points at 47 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, there you go. Quick question. Your go-to knife?
My go-to knife, I have an old Smith & Wesson that I've had. I actually found it at the dump about 10 years ago, and that knife has been the best knife. It holds an edge. I have it with me most of the time, and it's just got it for free, found it on the side of the road, and it's been an amazing knife, and hey, it's my go-to.
It's a fixed blade?
Yeah, it's a fixed blade knife, no sheath or anything like that. It's kind of hard to carry that way, but I've got a makeshift sheath I made for it, but it works, and I actually didn't need it once on the trip. It's something you think you're going to need every day, and I surprisingly didn't need it once. I was amazed.
And a question from the YouTube chat: what'd you do with the old truck?
So, funny story, if you guys have ever seen Rust Valley Restorers or Barrier Towing, randomly I had it towed to a towing yard, and the guy asked me, do I know who Big Donnie is? And he was Big Donnie, and so I guess he's a big TV star, but he stored my truck for me for 6 months, and then when I got back to Ontario, I made the very stupid decision, I guess, to drive all the way back out to BC, pick it up, and tow it all the way back home. So it was I think what would it be, about an 8,000 kilometer round trip, 9,000 kilometer round trip from one to the other just to pick the old truck up. It's got sentimental value now. It's made it to the Arctic Circle.
And now it will run again, regardless of the cost.
Yeah, so I wonder what keeps on causing the flex plates to break like that. There's got to be obviously something, adjacent to it that's causing some sort of bad harmonics or something, or bad balance.
Yeah, I've got, I had my transmission builder build the transmission before I left. And I think that there's an issue in the transmission because it's a Dodge. There's always issues in the transmission. So we'll see if I can get that fixed. I've got it home and I've got it all torn apart right now. So we'll see what failed. But that's the fun part. It's the worst times in your life sometimes are the times you look back on fondly now, right? Now that it's done and passed and you made it work. So.
So outside of your vehicle expenses, what do you think you laid out for your 14-month run? Like, we're talking fuel and food and whatever. What did you think it was? Your bill was roughly?
So I'm kind of proud, but kind of stupid, honestly, to say that I didn't take a single penny from the government. I quit work, put my 2 weeks notice in on my 30th birthday, and said, "Hey, we're gonna go off on this trip." So a year and a half, we'll say 14 months total. Sounds like a lot. We probably spent about 80,000. But that being said, I bought a $20,000 truck. I honestly also got married while we were out there, so probably spent $5,000 getting married. I bought a $5,000 quad, and then we decided to stay in a hotel probably twice a month just to enjoy, and that's also spending money on sightseeing and other things. So, I mean, the biggest expense out of everything was definitely fuel. And it sounds like a big number, but also you got to think of how many kilometers we did, right? You got to think 80,000 kilometers, $80,000. That's not really too bad for what we saw. But I mean, if you were just to stay in one place, like when we were up in the Yukon, besides food and stuff like that, if you had a fully stocked trailer, you could probably stock up, food, propane, that will say cost you $200. You could live off that for a month easily and just sit in the same spot and not spend any money. So the bugging out is inherently fairly cheap because you're being pretty self-sufficient. We still had to buy food and stuff like that, but it was actually a lot cheaper than we expected if we just stayed in the same spot. So when we were in Baja sitting on a beach, food was cheap. We could buy tacos at the taco stand on the beach. So when we were in Baja, I think we spent $20 1 week total. Like, just amazing.
Oh yeah, I think it depends on how much you want to run the truck before it gets super expensive. But actually, it doesn't seem like unreasonable considering what you got accomplished, right?
How much are these tacos?
Tacos were, let me think, 20 pesos, 10 pesos per dollar, so $2 roughly, I think. So $2 would get you probably 6 tacos. They're small tacos, but they're 6 tacos, the most delicious tacos of your life.
This is Brad with the really important questions.
Oh, yeah. That's
absolutely. It's food.
And then you guys go get your case of Dos Equis or whatever, and you're on your way.
Yeah, Tecate beer is in Baja. It's all Tecate beer, and the fish tacos are amazing. They go out and they catch the fish in the morning, then they come back and they fry it for you in the afternoon and make you tacos. Absolutely amazing.
But consider, like you said, for the $80,000 you spent and you walked away with a new truck and a new quad, as well as all that stuff, it's not bad.
And a whole bunch of hotels.
I actually think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, even like you said, the knowledge you gained is probably worth every penny too, right?
That's for sure. Yeah. Just even honestly, what I find now more than anything is it's changed my perspectives a lot, and it's changed, I think, my confidence level. I was honestly very into prepping before, I don't want to say I was worried about things, but I was cautiously, pessimistic about them, we'll say. Just, wondering what could happen. And I think now it's more of just an acceptance, understanding that, hey, whatever happens, I will be able to make it work. Worst case scenario, I can figure my way through, what to do. I think that's the biggest change I found.
Awesome. Quick question again. Preferred fire starting method?
Ooh, definitely. For me, it's lighter fluid or a bottle of gasoline.
Well, that's for the old Dodge truck. No, seriously. What about just for barbecue lighters, or what's for the stove? What's your preferred matches?
Yeah, Bic lighters. Honestly, yeah. I carry 25 Bic lighters on me at all times. That's that 2 is 1, 1 is none. I have lighters on everything, everywhere, in every bag, in every pocket, because honestly, I'm not the guy that's going to start fires in the woods with 2 sticks.
Awesome.
It's not going to happen. So I figure I've got enough flammable liquid. I will make something burn if I need to. But I realized in Vancouver, when it's been raining for days and days at a time, it is very hard to find anything dry to light on fire.
Yeah, I hear you.
The oil in your chainsaw that you didn't use.
I was gonna say, like, split a piece of cedar down the middle. It will probably burn no matter what. But anyway, but yeah, gasoline, dry with match. Yeah. Anything that you brought along completely useless that you thought would be like a awesome prepper tool besides the knife, I guess?
Well, not so much a prepper tool, but I brought a computer and a lot of electronics that I thought I would use a lot more, and it's just enjoying life and not needing that. As far as prep supplies, not really. I didn't need the fire extinguisher. I guess that's a good thing, but yeah, honestly, I used whatever I had. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I really threw out. A lot of little things, just stuff as you go, tools, that kind of stuff. I brought extra, didn't need, but if you need them, you need it, right?
Yeah, totally fair. Awesome. You guys have anything else for questions?
Tell me you brought some extra 10 mil sockets.
If you could find them.
Hey, I brought lots of 10 mils, and I also brought my nice $200 Mac ratchet, and it is now somewhere in the middle of the Mojave Desert. I had to pull the sway bar off, and I dropped it in the sand, and it disappeared, and somebody will find a really nice, expensive 3H drive ratchet in the middle of the desert somewhere.
Scorpion ran away with it or something. But, well, wouldn't you be using the 1/2 inch versus 10 mils, really? That's the American truck.
No, everything is metric. If it's not metric, metric will fit. Everything is metric after 1980.
Guess I'm that old.
Yeah, everything is metric, and if not, you can pound a metric socket on it. But, I mean, I had a full set of 3/8 1/2 inch drive sockets. I had every tool I ever thought I could need, and turns out it was way too much.
So basic, like a good Stanley kit from Canadian Tire would do you with a hammer and a pry bar.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, a pair of vice grips, pair of side cutters, a hammer,
adjustable wrench.
Yeah, adjustable wrench, basic toolkit. Yeah, I should actually do up a little toolkit of what you could use. But yeah, I was amazed. You can use almost nothing. Zip ties, you can zip tie anything together you need. Just a few key items. Yep, zip ties and duct tape. It'll fix anything you need.
And Melissa in the live chat's asking about medications. If you needed them, did you find things? Did you find it hard to keep a supply? Did you find it hard to source things while you were out there?
No, actually, I didn't have any medications with me. I don't need to take any medications. That being said, your average stuff like Pepto-Bismol, all that, the basic medications that you bring, we actually didn't need almost anything. I was amazed. I get headaches back home, that kind of stuff. After I left the stress of the job and everything behind, I was good. Drink lots of water and didn't need Advil, didn't need anything. It was actually amazing. So we didn't have problems restocking almost anything. The only thing we had a problem with was diesel fuel. On our way home, going through the States, there was a couple of petro stations, or not petro stations, but pilot truck stops that were running out of diesel fuel. So at that point, we decided that we needed to get home very quickly because it looked like the States was going to run out of diesel fuel there for a while. But I didn't see anything about it in the mainstream media or the news, but there was quite a few stations that had diesel.
Is your newer truck, does it still run without the Blue Death, or does it need that?
Well, I mean, at one point it needed it when it came from the factory, but it
Allegedly.
no longer uses any right now. I don't know. I put it in there and it doesn't do anything.
That's so weird.
It never goes away.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Good to know.
It's
Modifications
great.
were good, huh?
No, I think he just had a good stern caulking with it, and that's probably Good enough.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
not illegal if you don't get caught, right?
That's right.
Uh-huh.
So I've been told. All right. Well, that's pretty awesome. That's a great overall synopsis of everything. Highlights as far as what you saw on the road, like Death Valley, hot springs, anything along the lines, wildlife. What really stuck out at you?
So hot springs are absolutely amazing. So many hot springs in BC. You know, you find all the secret hot springs. Idaho was actually amazingly full of hot springs. Too many hot springs. When you go in hot springs for 4 hours, 5 days in a row, it can get to be a little bit too much. But yeah, hot springs, amazing places. Utah was absolutely beautiful. Canyonlands. There's so many absolutely amazing places. I would have to say BC, the Kootenay Mountains, beautiful. And then the Yukon, just stunning. Love getting up in the middle of nowhere where there's just nobody around. Most beautiful places I've ever seen.
In the summer, I would agree, but
yeah, I wasn't there in the winter, so
yeah,
not sure.
You know that 24-hour darkness would kind of suck. So awesome. Well, should we move on to the podcast challenge?
We should. Find 3 things to put in your vehicle to allow for some basic services away from town. 3 10-mil sockets does not count. If you do complete the podcast challenge, send us an email at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Let us know what you did, how it's working, whether you've needed it, or even if you've discovered something along the way that you wish you'd had. We'd love to hear from you. Again, that's feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right. Upcoming events, just got one left. We just finished the Preppers Meet, of course, but TACCOM is still coming up September 9th to 11th in Mississauga. You can get all the details at taccommcanada.com. Jeff,
is there going to be a podcaster booth there like we talked about a couple of years ago?
No, nobody else wanted to do it, so it was scrubbed.
Jerks.
Yeah. Anyway, Jeff, do you have some weather chat for us? Still there?
Jeff
Sorry
fell
about that.
asleep.
Yeah, basically in capital letters, it's going to be hot. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The drought status, I was looking it up in the U.S. The other day, and it is exponentially worse than they anticipated. Basically, the Midwest United States, like Upper Michigan area, Wisconsin, those areas that typically don't have a problem with drought are having moderate to severe drought areas already. So, and we're not even into the real heat of the summer now. So it's only going to get worse. Again, as we always say, don't be scared, be prepared.
Yeah, well, they say that the Hoover Lake Mead, Hoover Dam, will be a dead pool by the end of the summer. So, meaning no power generation and no water leaving it. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah. Deal of the week. It's kind of going to make Alan a little bit angry with me for mentioning it, but it's the Costco First Aid Kit. It's not the world's best equipment, but it is good value for dollar spent. It's $29.99 on sale right now. Item number 9/11/2022.
Ooh.
Interesting choice.
Interesting, yes.
Yes, it's it actually changes every year, just with the year, of course. But it's actually a great deal. They've got stacks of them in Costco.
No, I genuinely have nothing bad to say about those kits. As you said, for like value for dollar, they do everything that they're supposed to do. Even
the case alone it comes in is decent. Like you can always refill it, and it's a decent case. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing. So shout outs.
I just want to say thanks to Ethan for coming on tonight. Real pleasure. We may have to do this again because Ethan and I have had the opportunity to sit and talk about some of the stories, and they've been some really cool ones. So Ethan is also part of the Discord chat. So if you want to hit him up on there, he might be willing to tell some more stories there. But thanks for coming on, and thanks for being such a long-time listener.
No problem. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. It was a great experience. I listened to you guys on the road for hours and hours and hours on end. So it's nice to be able to talk to you guys and meet you guys and see everybody.
I'm sorry.
That's more than I was doing.
Yeah, but actually, it's I'm actually curious to see what your toolkit looked like and everything else on the Discord, and maybe come back on and talk to us about that as well. That'd be awesome. So
I was going to say too, I'd like to see your inventory kind of thing of what you actually took with you and what you actually used, and what you would have stayed behind if you go and do the trip again.
I can definitely write up a full write up on all that stuff. I still have to go through everything since I've gotten back. As soon as I got back, I just kind of shoved everything in a closet and forgot about it. But definitely, if we are planning another trip, I will eliminate some stuff and add some stuff. So I should go through and write up a full list of what would be essential items and what would be some good things to have.
Yeah, at the very least, you can go back on later and just remind yourself. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll see if I can get something together and probably post that in one of the Discord.
Cool. Email iTunes reviews.
So from John, he says, "Happy Canada Day. Best wishes from Virginia."
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Thanks, John. That's
And
really nice.
got-
I appreciate you thinking of us.
And we got one from Joe. Thanks, Joe. He said, "I stumbled across you guys' podcast on Spotify. It's entertaining, full of useful information. I'm a slacker prepper. Well, then get on it. I have half the things I need for a family of 4, but I'm working on it.
Well,
So
then
if
you're
you're
halfway
working
there.
on it, if you're working on it, you're 90% ahead of the rest of the population. So nothing to
So
be.
you pick
ashamed
your
about.
favorite kid and focus on that one.
Oh, it's like the Sophie's Choice of prepping. Oh, that's
Oh.
very dark. All right, we got actually an awesome email from Sasha. Unfortunately, it's going to take us. We're going to go off on a squirrel moment if we address that one. But what we're going to do is hopefully get Sasha on here to talk about his email with a bunch of prepping ideas, and maybe we'll see if we can kind of redress this as a specialized episode. So we haven't forgotten about you, but we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I read that email. It's full of great information. It's an entire episode unto itself, so I think we should dedicate some time to that. I got another email. I don't know what it is. We got a lot of correspondence this week. I got an email from Kyle. He sent it to me rather than you guys because I'm first alphabetically. But he said, "Hi, Alan, and all the crew from the Prepper Podcast. My name's Kyle. I'm a faithful listener from Central Alberta. As I was listening to the news issues in your recent search and rescue episode, the 911 triage caught my attention. I recently listened to another podcast that might interest you guys. It's called Radio Lab. The episode is No Special Duty on June 17th, 2022, talks about American police and what they're actually legally obligated to do or not do to help citizens in certain situations. I've heard of similar stories here in Canada, and it really emphasizes the need to be able to look after oneself. Then, of course, there are all the tangents of gun control, self-defense, and liability, etc. Anyways, I think it's worth a listen. Good work to all of you there. Love the show. Keep it up. FYI, currently working northwest of Fort St. John. Diesel is $2.45.9 a liter. Ouch. Thanks, Trudeau." That's I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but it's on my list. My new job is going to take me on the road about an hour and a half each way for a little while. So I'm going to be looking for a few new shows to listen to, and that's something I was going to plan on for one day this week. Take a quick listen to that and see where they are, and then I'd be really interested to do a compare and contrast with Canadian police and see how it compares to what our obligations are here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think down the States it's bounced up against the Supreme Court like 3 times now, and they've consistently said no duty to protect the public. They only have a duty to protect themselves, basically, which is awesome, but great. But it goes against their slogans, which is usually to serve and protect. So it doesn't work very well for them. But they also, by the same token, they turn right around and say, "But you're perfectly allowed to defend yourself." Of course. This is one of the differences between Canada and the States. We actually had the most recent case was the Queen versus Godoy, and they said that the police do have a duty to protect and serve and protect the lives of its citizens. Matter of fact, to the point where they're allowed to do stuff they normally wouldn't be allowed to do, which is like storm into houses if they feel they can protect a life, which would be trouble down the States, of course. And of course, consequently, we don't have as much of a solid case for self-defense in Canada as they do in the States, like no castle laws or anything like that, or no stand your ground laws or anything else. So unfortunately, different countries, different outcomes, but our police are definitely a little more obligated to protect the public.
Because if the government can't protect us, then who can?
Exactly. So unfortunately, I can't say which one I disagree with or agree with at this point, because that's for the other podcast. However, it's just very interesting to see the differences. Anyway, on that note, before I get in deep into politics, I'm going to bring episode 168 of the Canadian Purple Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Please help us out and submit a review. It helps other people find us.
And we do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. If you want to send an email to me, you can get me directly at Alan, that's with one L, at prepperpodcast.ca.
And if you want to reach me, you can just send a generic message to feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
I can be reached at batbradcpp@gmail.com if anybody wants to chat.
And if you want to chat with me, you can send me a message on Instagram at middlemiss_adventures, or you can catch me in the Discord server a little bit later.
Awesome. Have you got a username that you want to share on Discord, or just keep it down low for now?
I'll keep it down low for now. I'll log in on it a little bit, and I'll let you guys know.
Okay, sounds good. All right, you can reach Ian directly by emailing me at theislandretreat@gmail.com. Once in a while, you can find me on Canadian Patriot Podcast, which is on iTunes and YouTube. Recording Monday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm also in the Discord chat for both CPPs. Email us if you want an invite. We've had some problems lately, and I've had to manually email a bunch of guys, but that's fine. Keep the emails coming. There you can find us discussing why government waste on society has me outfitting my little truck bed for sleepovers.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.